Hello there. Welcome into a Monday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. And that app, of course, is sponsored by Diversus Health, Mental Health, and Well-Being for All. We are also back up and running on the stream on our social media platforms. I believe the kids would say that we are back in full effect today after a couple of days out at the Broadmoor, which were phenomenal. Talk about the way that tournament finished in a little bit. So much going on. A veritable cornucopia, truly, of sports topics coming your way, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247 1313. You can also hit me up on X at Gingerly Tweets. You might be watching the show there already. Let's start with NBA free agency, which begins in less than an hour. And the biggest story of NBA free agency has been and will be someone who is not a free agent. Not anymore. LeBron James opted into his $52.6 million option for next season with the Lakers. But if he did just that, certainly ESPN would talk about him because LeBron is oxygen to that network. But you and I wouldn't spend too much time on it. Okay, he opted in the Lakers, onward and upward. And that just doesn't sit well with LeBron James. LeBron James needs you and I to talk about him as much as ESPN does. He wants that level of coverage everywhere. So, the same exact moment that the news breaks that LeBron James is opting in to his $52.6 million contract for next season, his agent, Rich Paul, puts the following out. LeBron wants to compete for a championship. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. We are very appreciative of the partnership that we've had for 8 years with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka, and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. It continues. We understand the difficulty in winning now while preparing for the future. We do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. He wants to make every season he has left count. And the Lakers understand that, are supportive, and want what's best for him. He can't help himself, can he? He does this. He's done this every year he's been in LA. I can't think of a year, maybe year one. After that, he's been doing this every single year in LA. To say nothing of the years where he got ready to move to either Miami or Cleveland. This is a regular LeBron thing, like clockwork. LeBron James, through Rich Paul, putting pressure on, let's just talk about the Lakers part of this, the Los Angeles Lakers, to continue to make moves to put LeBron James in a position to win another title. And when he does this, the news yesterday is the LeBron experience and why people who are fanboys of LeBron don't quite grasp the other part of this. Yes, there are people who hate on the greats, right? A lot of people just hated Tom Brady because he was great at what he did and he beat their football team. Same thing with LeBron James. Okay, so those are the fringes of society, of sports society. We don't worry about them. If you can't appreciate who LeBron James is as a basketball player, then you just need to pick a different sport because you just don't like basketball. LeBron James is brilliant. LeBron James is the best all-around player we have ever seen, or any human being has ever seen at any point in the history of the world. However, where I and so many others get a little bit turned off of LeBron is when he does stuff like this. When he's Le Podcast, Le GM, that's what I think the most rational thinkers, and if not to sound too highfalutin, but I would consider myself among that group. That's what we have a hard time with. That's where we get critical of LeBron James. It's not his basketball. It's everything else. And I think if you gave some people truth serum, that the only thing keeping them from making LeBron James the GOAT is this other stuff. I think there are some people who would fall under that umbrella. But it's so hard to just appreciate LeBron when he can't just simply opt into his contract. You want to opt in, opt in. Just do it. Why do you have to release the message through Rich Paul? It's ego, number one. It's the desire to be at the top of the news cycle, to be at the top of every person's mind. That's first and foremost. That's his main motivation. But right behind that is something that highlights his move to LA and why he did it in the first place. Without LeBron James, the Lakers would be a mess of a franchise. Remember where they were before LeBron showed up. They had no leadership. They were not talented. They were irrelevant. And you have to give LeBron credit for making the Lakers relevant again. But, and I've said this when it comes to owners, but I'll apply it to an entire organization. Just because an organization has success in sports does not necessarily mean that they are the most well-run organization. You can luck into things. Like the Lakers lucking into LeBron James. The Lakers had nothing that would appeal to LeBron James, except maybe the fact that him going there would create headlines, but LeBron James playing for Maccabi Tel Aviv would create headlines. He wanted Los Angeles, California. He did not want the Lakers. And he only had two choices: go the Clippers or go the Lakers. And maybe that's where the prestige of what the Lakers brand had been in the past comes into play. But he wanted Los Angeles. He didn't want the Lakers. Nobody wanted the Lakers. They were terrible. And guess what? He goes there. Rich Paul gets to Anthony Davis to manufacture a way for Anthony Davis to get to the Lakers. Everything that the Lakers have done good is directly attributed to LeBron James and Rich Paul. And now Nico Harrison. But literally nothing has been attributed to Jeannie Buss or Rob Pelinka or anybody else that has been a high-ranking individual in that organization. LeBron James has willed every bit of success that the Lakers have had prior to the Luka trade. Since he got there to when they got Luka, everything good about the Lakers had to do with LeBron. So underneath the ego, and that being the main driver, is the idea that the Lakers are still not a good organization, not at least until their new owner takes full effect and the Guggenheim partners get their mitts on the Los Angeles Lakers. Then the Lakers are going to be a serious franchise. But they're not. Like, Rob Pelinka has accomplished nothing. Everything that he has done has been handed to him. So what LeBron, I think, in some way feels like he has to do is keep pressure on them. Because without that pressure, they just operate the way they did before he arrived. Which begs the question. If you're saying through Rich Paul that you are looking out for your basketball career, this is it. This statement has to do with basketball, not lifestyle, not his kids, his basketball playing. Why did you go to the Lakers in the first place? I know you won a title, but you could have gotten Anthony Davis to ask out of New Orleans and followed you anywhere else that you went. Why did you go to the Lakers in the first place? Why didn't you make a basketball decision in 2018? Because it wasn't about basketball at that point. I can answer my own question. But now if it is, why are you staying with LA? If you have all these questions about what the Lakers are going to do, then why'd you opt in? Because you could have accomplished the being at the top of everyone's minds by opting out. My goodness. If LeBron, it's more of a story if LeBron James doesn't opt in. He becomes one of the most significant sports stories in years if he becomes a free agent again. So I do think because of lifestyle and his kids and everything like that, although his other kid is at Arizona now, right? Bronny's with him in LA. He's made Space Jam 2. I don't know what's tethering him to LA, but something must be. And it's not basketball. So it just underscores the point that LeBron never chose that organization because they were a good basketball fit. He just went there and terraformed the organization into the image that he wanted. And he was successful. They won a title. And every year since, it's been, gosh, I don't know what this team's going to do. I don't know if we have what it takes. And he's not wrong, because I talk about how the Nuggets are getting past. Well, they were at the top of the West not that long ago. Think about how long it's been and how many teams have surpassed the Lakers. So I understand completely what LeBron James is doing, because I have serious doubts about Rob Pelinka's ability to do anything for himself. I have very little faith that the Lakers, left to their own devices, can build a championship team. But I just keep going back to, why go there? Why not? Why stay there? Why go there? Why stay there? And it's because he enjoys LA, I'm sure. I'm sure there are personal reasons. The production company and all of that stuff. I think he also looks at it and says, if I do go somewhere else, is that going to boost my legacy truly? If I go back to Cleveland, it's not going to hit like it did the last time. If I go anywhere else, am I really going to add to my legacy? Even if I win a title, is that going to change hearts and minds of the people who don't put me above Michael Jordan? And I think the answer is no. I think the GOAT debate has been settled. It's over. Whatever side of the line you are currently on is where you will remain. There is nothing that, if you are a LeBron guy or girl, that is going to make you lose GOAT status, make him lose GOAT status in your mind. And if you are on my side of the line and you have Michael Jordan as your GOAT, there is literally nothing LeBron James can do at this point in his career to change your mind. There's nothing, because I can tell you from my own thing, there's nowhere LeBron wins another title in LA. Doesn't move the needle for me. Goes anywhere else and wins a title, except for one particular destination, which I will get into. But he goes to Golden State, goes to Cleveland. No, doesn't change anything for me. But if he wants to win, Lakers are not the best place for him. So just opt out. Become a free agent. Or finish the job that Rich Paul started and demand a trade. I can see where he opted in for financial reasons, but now ask out. Say, I'm opting in because it's my right and I want to make $52.6 million next year, but I want to be somewhere else. But it's just, this is the LeBron experience. It's wanting to be talked about. It's his affinity for Los Angeles, whether it's the organization or just the city that he's in. And I think the latter holds greater weight than the former. But he just can't do the thing all the way and just say, I'm out. I'm gone. He's got to put pressure. He's got to be making news through Rich Paul. And it's just, again, why when people say that they aren't a big LeBron fan, it's not his basketball. It's not. It's this stuff. And he's going to be doing it till the bitter end. Very clearly. And here's the other thing, because I can't put it all on him. Okay, I have to raise my hand. The other reason why LeBron does this is because it works. It works. We may not like it. It works. It got him Bronny. It got him Anthony Davis. It gets all other lesser moves that the Lakers have made. And we talk about it because LeBron James just maybe not finishing his career in LA is infinitely more interesting than anything that will occur starting at 4:00. That has to be said. No move that is going to be made when 4:00 rolls around is more interesting than the mere thought of LeBron James changing teams again. And here's the other part. When he says stuff like that, it sends fan bases across America into a tizzy. And you know how I know this? Because if you asked me if the Denver Nuggets should trade for LeBron James, I will tell you unequivocally, yes, 1,000% yes. The Nuggets should be blowing up Rob Pelinka's phone. They should be back channeling and tampering through Rich Paul. Whatever draft pick it costs you with tampering is worth it. Anything is worth it. They're not going to trade Nikola Jokic, right? So anyone else on this roster, get rid of them. I don't care. As much as Aaron Gordon is a local hero, LeBron James, it's LeBron. Even at this stage in his career, it's still LeBron. And tell me that the Nuggets would be any further away from winning a title with LeBron James and Nikola Jokic as they are right now with what they have and Nikola Jokic. So this is also why he does it. because there are no shortage of teams in the NBA that would trade anybody on their roster for LeBron James. And the teams that wouldn't trade anybody have a list of maybe one player they wouldn't trade for LeBron James. Nuggets have one of those. Everybody else, make it happen. Talk more about that in a little bit. Your thoughts in the meantime, 719-24-7. 13-13. LeBron casting a shadow on NBA free agency, which begins in less than 40 minutes. We'll see the other news roll in. I do not expect LeBron to do anything else today, but we'll still talk about him. And we'll talk about whatever other news breaks in the NBA over the course of the program. Our little poll question today, and I'll put it on our social media, but I'll just ask it right now. Which would you rather have? LeBron on the Nuggets or Sidney Crosby on the Avalanche? Because guess that's in the news apparently again. And we'll talk about it next here on Extra Sports 1300. Celebrate the Switchbacks Independence Day firework spectacular with a 360-degree immersive experience of fireworks from the field after the Switchbacks take on Louisville City this Friday night, 4th of July. Be there at 6 p.m. as the first 2,000 fans through the gates will get a limited edition Switchbacks bucket hat powered by Pikes Peak National Bank. Tickets will sell out. Get them now at switchbacksfc.com. So, the only thing I would say that extracts a greater physical toll on somebody that follows sports like you and I do than LeBron James's passive aggressiveness is the perpetual Sidney Crosby to the Avalanche conversation. And they happen about as often as one another. Friday, talking about the Charlie Coyle, Miles Wood trade. They clear some space up. Immediately get a text on the text line saying Sid to the Avs. And I, like I always do when anybody brings it up, I chuckle. And I'd like to see it as much as you would. But I feel like, for the most part, I am tethered to reality. And so that's why it gets a chuckle out of me. And we move on with our day. Not an hour after I received that text, I thought about finding that number and texting them and personally apologizing. And I wonder who this person's sources are. You know who you are if you text me. Tell me who your sources are. Because I then proceeded to spend a lot of time on social media while I was at the Broadmoor watching golf. I had one eye on the golf and one eye on my timeline as I am seeing somebody that goes by Hockey Insider with 2 Y's and 2 R's saying that the Avalanche are planning something crazy with their cap space, which when you say that only means one thing. It's not Mitch Marner. That's not what you think of immediately. You think of Sidney Crosby. And then you have Kevin Weeks, who tweets out eyeball emojis with a picture of the skyline of Denver. And then you have former NHLer George LaRock, who's tweeting, quote, I'm hearing there's a pretty good chance that Crosby will play somewhere else. And I'm sitting here connecting all these dots. I'm like, is this thing finally happening? Well, we're sitting here. It's Monday. Where's Sidney Crosby on the Avs? I don't see Sidney Crosby on the Avs. I see no official announcement. I see press releases about Trent Miner. I see tweets about Sam Malinsky. By the way, do like the Sam Malinsky move by the Avs, bringing him back. But I see no Sidney Crosby. Where's the Sidney Crosby? And then I have seen Kevin Weeks say nothing after that. No Avalanche-related content on his timeline since. It's been almost 3 days. No mention of it. George LaRock is like, well, let me clarify. Maybe at the deadline he moves. No, dude. We've been talking about that for years. That's not new information. You want to talk about clickbait? We've been talking about Sidney Crosby at the deadline for the last 5 deadlines. Yes, at some point you wonder if Sidney Crosby is going to want out. And the Avs will be a logical destination. And we wonder, will Sidney Crosby finally say, you know what, I'm tired of being stuck in Pittsburgh? We wonder that all the time. And maybe he will get moved at the deadline. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll retire today. Maybe he'll just up and decide he wants to play in the NBA. There are a lot of things that Sidney Crosby maybe will do. You're not bringing new information to the table by wondering if at this deadline he's going to be moved. But it was crazy that confluence of events where I get that text and I'm like, okay, my normal reaction, and then this flood of Sidney Crosby Avalanche stuff. But so let's do this. Let's do this again, because there are enough people pondering it, discussing it. Let's talk here. I will say about Sidney Crosby the same thing. Almost everything I say about Sidney Crosby today can be applied to LeBron James and vice versa. Yes, there is a better place for Sidney Crosby to finish out his career. Yes, the team in Colorado would qualify as that. He has the connection with Nathan MacKinnon. The Avalanche are infinitely closer to winning than the Pittsburgh Penguins are. The Avalanche should, just for the record, absolutely want Sidney Crosby. But then the little details get in the way. What would the Avs give up? And I thought about this. Brock Nelson just signed a deal. Okay? That would be pretty cold-blooded for the Avalanche to go through this to get Brock Nelson to re-up only to turn around and trade him. But Chris McFarland, then again, kind of feels like a cold-blooded guy given what he did with Mikko Rantanen. So, okay, we proceed. The Avalanche certainly have no problem with dealing future draft picks. So check that box. I still think there would be another thing. Another person would have to go, because we could talk about the comparisons with Ray Bourque, and it would be a very similar arc. Here's the problem. With all due respect to Ray Bourque, he did not have nearly as much left in the tank as Sidney Crosby does. Sidney Crosby is still a star player. Sidney Crosby put up 91 points on a mediocre Penguins team last year. Okay, so Ray Bourque getting traded for Brian Rolison and one first-round pick and Martin Grenier, that kind of a return isn't going to cut it. Because the Penguins are going to hang on to Sidney Crosby for dear life. So you're going to have to give them something. Would you give up a Marty Necas in the deal? Pending free agent, young enough that this Penguins could go, all right, this is a guy that we can have moving forward. We'll sign him to the extension. Would you give that up? Because you got to move out Brock Nelson for Sidney Crosby. Like that, you got to clear that spot. You're not going Brock Nelson. Although they do need maybe a third-line winger, I don't think Brock Nelson is going to take that. Okay, so you're moving him out, kind of like what you did with Casey Middlestat for Charlie Coyle. Right? You just got to move him out. For picks, I don't care. Like, go ahead. For Sidney Crosby, that's not an issue. What's the other thing? You're not giving up McKinnon. You're not giving up Makar. So we don't even need to go down that road. What else do you have? And to me, it's two wingers. It's Valeri Nichushkin and it's Marty Necas. Would you be willing to give up one of those two guys to get Sidney Crosby? And I will answer my own question. Yes. Yes. Because now you're adding Sidney Crosby as a byproduct of the Mikko Rantanen trade. Now we're having a conversation. Now this vision, this chestnut checkers of Chris McFarland is starting to come into place. Sidney Crosby being eventually someone you get by way of the Mikko Rantanen trade, I could get on board with that. Now, is one season of Valeri Nichushkin staying out of trouble and being with the team, is that enough for you to say, I have no issues with him moving forward? No worry whatsoever. Because I can tell you as a player, just what Valeri Nichushkin brings, I think that the Avalanche would rather keep him than Marty Necas. So that would be kind of the package that I would put together. Say, Brock Nelson, you got to move him for practical reasons. Take your pick of the Avalanche first-round picks, and then here's a player in his prime, but still a young player in many ways in Marty Necas that the Penguins could use to kind of lead their rebuild. Because don't forget, Malkin is done after this year. So who's Pittsburgh going to have? So that's what I would be looking at. Would it create other holes on the Avalanche roster? Absolutely. But you figure it out. You figure it out if you're going to land a Sidney Crosby. So I ask again, which would you rather have? LeBron James on the Denver Nuggets or Sidney Crosby on the Colorado Avalanche? I will answer my own question once again, as I tend to do. And I will tell you, for practical reasons, it would be LeBron on the Nuggets. And I'll tell you why. It has everything to do with how close to a title I perceive each team to be. I'll take them both. But if you gave me a choice, I would say LeBron, because I feel like the Avalanche as currently constructed, and we'll see, we know they're going to make a move. And that move will be of some significance. That team is much closer in my mind to winning a title than the Denver Nuggets are. So I'm not thinking about the storyline. Maybe the story of, I think the story of Sidney Crosby going to the Avalanche is probably a better story than LeBron James going to the Denver Nuggets, but I'm not really thinking about that. I'm just thinking from a practical standpoint, which move is more necessary for these two teams. And I would say LeBron being on the Denver Nuggets moves the needle more than Sidney Crosby going to the Avs. Now, Sidney Crosby to the Avs might mean a Stanley Cup. Very well could. But I don't know if the Avalanche need that much help to get to a Stanley Cup. The Nuggets need help. And as I will go into greater detail explaining a little bit later, I believe that LeBron James can give them that help. (719) 24/7 1313. We'll continue on with this Monday edition of Drive Time Sports right after this. Happy birthday, America. Celebrate big with the chance at $5,000 in the Red, White, and Win giveaway. Just head to extrasports1300.com now to enter this national contest for your chance to Red, White, and Win. $5,000 sponsored locally by H&H Tires and Window Nation. The question of the day: would you rather have LeBron on the Denver Nuggets or Sidney Crosby on the Colorado Avalanche? Noise surrounding both Mount Rushmore type players in their respective sports. LeBron, through his agent Rich Paul, keeping pressure on the Lakers, wondering if the Lakers are going to be able to do what it takes to put him in a position to win another title. And what's the funny thing about that is that I swore that just like 2 weeks ago, someone that looked a lot like LeBron said he didn't understand ring culture and disparaged ring culture. And yet here is LeBron saying a ring is what matters to me. Right? Rich Paul isn't releasing a statement saying that LeBron is excited to play with Luka or be in the city of Los Angeles. Or watch Austin Reeves play basketball. Wants to win a ring. That isn't that ring culture? So LeBron James off of a basketball court certainly has some deficiencies, shall we say. And that's what people who criticize LeBron are usually talking about. Nobody's really talking about the basketball. Talking about the other part of it. And here's something coming in from the text line as well. LeBron could get traded to Denver to sit on the bench so Joker could show him how to play basketball. He ruined the NBA. Now, LeBron James is also, not only did he really fuel ring culture, he also fueled the player empowerment era. And that is another reason why people who don't care for LeBron don't care for LeBron. Again, not basketball. No one in their right mind would question LeBron James as a basketball player. But still, even with that, the Nuggets need him. They do. And if it's not LeBron, they need another difference maker. And that's why I say LeBron is more needed in Denver than Sidney Crosby is. But the smoke that continues to billow regarding Sidney Crosby to the Avalanche, there's more of it. That's at least what I am comfortable in saying. Okay, I don't know what authority George LaRock speaks with, and Kevin Weeks, I don't even know what he was referring to when he tweeted out this skyline of Denver. Could mean any number of things. Maybe not Crosby. He didn't put Crosby anywhere near there. So maybe we're just gearing up tomorrow when NHL free agency begins for a different move of significance for the Colorado Avalanche. But the timing of it, very interesting, given how many people were talking about Sidney Crosby and the Colorado Avalanche. Take either one. Wouldn't turn him away. I can promise you that. But I think LeBron a little bit more needed with the Nuggets than Sidney Crosby would be with the Avs. Take your thoughts at 719-247-1313. Let's get to another text in here from Ed. Says Pioneer League today announced that Colorado Springs Sky Sox started operation. What is going on, and why does the local press totally ignore what's going on with this league? Well, let me answer your second question first. And the answer to that is this is independent league baseball. It is not affiliated with any major league club, which was a draw for the Sky Sox, now Rocky Mountain Vibes. Okay, so obviously those are players that are being paid to play, but this is not what people grew up here watching. And they are pretty low. If we use the soccer term, the American baseball pyramid, they're at the bottom. So that's why no one talks about the league. It just, you're not going to get major league players through. These players that are leaving the Rocky Mountain Vibes, you're probably not going to see on a Major League Baseball roster, with all due respect. It's not the level of baseball that it used to be. And the fact that the Rockies left for Albuquerque hurt a lot of people. A lot of people got angry about that. A lot of people jumped ship then. Some people stuck around because at least it was the Brewers. And then it got moved down to a lower level of minor league baseball. Lost more people. Now it's unaffiliated. So that's why no one talks about them. They're even more so than they've ever been an entertainment product. What they are competing for on a night-to-night basis or a season-to-season basis, it just doesn't register with people. And I'll just tell you this, like when I talk about the Switchbacks who have more to play for than the Rocky Mountain Vibes, I get a lot of people saying I'm not really in it. I go Switchbacks games for the entertainment value. Which to each their own. But this baseball team is so far removed from what we all grew up watching that they've just lost people throughout. And I don't know how much it would behoove any of us to have a discussion about them on the platform. Now, to your first part, I saw that too. So the Northern Colorado Owls have ceased operations. They're a team in the same league as the Rocky Mountain Vibes. They have ceased operations. They are kaput as of immediately. Right now, they're like, we're done. We're out of money. So now they are going to become the Colorado Springs Sky Sox and play at that stadium that the original Sky Sox used to play at with the Rocky Mountain Vibes. Now, that's the extent of the information. I don't know who's in charge of it. Is it the Northern Colorado people? Is it the people who own the Vibes? I don't know. But they're going to play in the same league, in the same stadium as the Rocky Mountain Vibes. I think the most interesting thing about this, as of right now, until more details come out, is the fact that the organization that was the Sky Sox willingly pivoted and rebranded, and now here comes a team in that stadium that is going to be able to tap into the nostalgia around here from the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. How it's all going to work, why here, like, I don't know any of that yet. I saw the press release, it hit my inbox, and I was like, Sky Sox are back? In a way, they are. And we'll find out over the coming days what this all looks like. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, why, if LeBron James is serious about leaving LA, why, just like in 2018, Denver would be a great landing spot in 2025. But I don't know if he'd want to come here. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on a Monday, and NBA free agency has begun. Somebody's got to tell me how I get tennis off of my television and where I can watch coverage of NBA free agency. But other than that, doing well. Appreciate you tuning in. We are back live on the on our social media platforms with the stream after 2 days out at the Broadmoor, not allowed to live stream, which is fine. USGA Broadmoor rolled out the red carpet for me, and I am eternally grateful. It was a phenomenal week, and we'll talk about what transpired, especially yesterday with the finish to the U.S. Senior Open. Jay Ritchie, host of Tee to Green Radio, will join me to tie a bow on the week's proceedings coming up in just a little bit. Your thoughts very much welcome at 719-247-1313. The question is being asked by me. Which would you rather have happen? LeBron James, who through his agent Rich Paul released a statement saying, I want to win. I know what you're trying to do, but don't forget about the fact that I don't have much time left and I would like to try to win another title. So could he ask out if the Lakers don't get done what LeBron thinks needs to get done? And could Denver be a spot for him? And then you have more smoke on Friday billowing about regarding Sidney Crosby. Could he be on the move? And naturally, the Colorado Avalanche would be a mentioned destination given the great affinity he and Nathan McKinnon have with one another. Don't know if there's fire behind the smoke, but there's more smoke maybe than ever. Which would you rather see? You could vote on at Extra Sports 1300 on X, or you could just call or text in the show right now. I say that LeBron to the Nuggets would be my choice over Sidney Crosby to the Avs. Because my reasoning is that the Denver Nuggets need more help than the Colorado Avalanche do. And LeBron James would provide that help. He is better than everyone on the Nuggets roster, not named Nikola Jokic. The skill sets of Jokic and LeBron James would be an unbelievable match. Think about the ball movement, the passing. You thought that guys already got open shots with just Nikola Jokic passing the ball. Now throw in LeBron. It would make teams respect somebody on the Denver Nuggets not wearing jersey number 15. And it would be kind of a cap table reset, if you will, or a cap table cleanser for the Denver Nuggets, because you're going to have to move your significant contracts. I'll tell you one that the math works right now. You could move Jamal Murray for LeBron James, essentially. You could send other contracts back the other way. Where is Bronny in all of this? Is he coming along with dad? But the Nuggets could make a deal work financially. Remember how difficult it was for me to create a Kevin Durant trade? That doesn't exist with this. Given how much money LeBron James is going to make, $52.6 million next year, the Nuggets can make it work. I would trade Jamal Murray for LeBron James yesterday. I would trade Michael Porter for LeBron James yesterday. And financially, it actually makes more sense for the Nuggets to trade Porter or Murray in such a deal than Aaron Gordon. Because remember, Aaron Gordon, because he's just the best human being on planet Earth, did not take every dollar he could have from the Denver Nuggets. His contract is not big enough to be involved. So we don't even have to discuss Aaron Gordon. Because financially, they can make it work. Michael Porter, that trade becomes a little bit more difficult to maneuver, but saw this yesterday. Jamal Murray, Zeke Naji for LeBron, Bronny, done. Clean, and away we go. So the financial gymnastics involved with like a Kevin Durant deal or really any other piece of business that the Denver Nuggets hope to accomplish now that NBA free agency is open, it wouldn't exist with the Lakers because of how huge LeBron James's contract is. So from the Nuggets perspective, this is a no-brainer. No-brainer. I cannot think of one reason, as long as Nikola Jokic is not going anywhere, which he isn't, so why am I even wasting my breath? They would not give up Jokic for LeBron. There is not one single reason to go against the idea of LeBron James going to the Denver Nuggets. The other side of the equation is always going to be the more difficult swing. And I find myself kind of like the Bernie Sanders meme. I am once again asking LeBron, why not Denver if the goal is to win? And I talked about this in 2018. I remember my opening monologue from a show back in 2018 very well, where I said, LeBron, if you're going to make a basketball decision, emphasize basketball decision, there are very few places, if any, where you could go and win a title than if you paired with this, at the time, rising star in Nikola Jokic. Now Nikola Jokic is the best player walking planet Earth. I have even a stronger basketball case to make for LeBron James wanting to come to the Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic is now, it's not potential. It's not maybe if, he's the best player in the world. And think about this. A lot of people are throwing out Cleveland of the full circle nature of it all. And any team in the Eastern Conference adding LeBron James, given the state of flux that conference is in, I understand where there is an easier path. But let's just take Cleveland for a moment. The idea that LeBron James is just going to join them and they're going to keep Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, you're just going to add LeBron to it, it's not going to happen. The Lakers are at least going to want Mobley. Or maybe Jared Allen, they're at least going to want one of those because that's what Luka needs, is a big man. It's not just LeBron that needs a big man in LA. Luka needs one. So the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to be what they are now. They will be a lesser version going out, right? They're going to lose some pieces. And then you fit in LeBron and decide, yes, I would put Cleveland near the top of the list of teams next year and moving forward, as long as LeBron plays, to be a contender to get out of the East. But LeBron would be leading that team. He would be their best player on that team. Is that where LeBron should be at this stage of his career, leading a franchise? That's why Luka was sent from the heavens, because now you have a player that is better than you, that is younger than you, that can help shoulder the burden. If he goes to Cleveland, he's the guy. Can LeBron continue to be that for the rest of his career? Maybe, but it's the question, whereas with Denver, it's like, no, they got Nikola Jokic. They're good. You could pair with him, and guess what? He is a big man. The Nuggets already have one. They have the best in the world. So, yes, the West is more difficult. But if the Nuggets don't give up Nikola Jokic in such a deal, they're no further away from winning a title with LeBron James. In fact, they're closer. They're closer. They're better with LeBron than they are as currently constructed. And yes, there are more teams in the West, but let me ask you, Aaron Gordon, LeBron James, and Nikola Jokic, who in the West is beating that team? No, not the defending champions, not the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Nuggets with LeBron would be the favorite to come out of the West. Their road would be more difficult. But they would have to be considered the favorites. So if LeBron is releasing this statement through Rich Paul and talking about basketball, then Denver is the best basketball fit. You can't do better than playing with the best player in the world. And a team that, even as currently constructed, is in the championship conversation. They're not at the top. They have a few teams over them, but they're in the conversation. And LeBron gets there. He's an upgrade over Jamal Murray, and he's an upgrade over Michael Porter. So to me, it makes even more sense now than it did in 2018. It's an even more of a no-brainer from both parties' perspective. I know the Nuggets wanted LeBron in 2018. LeBron didn't want the Denver Nuggets. You know, the reasons for that. Movies. Denver doesn't have movies. Can't make movies in Denver. No. Nikola Jokic, we all saw the signs, but he was more of a rising star. So even though I thought I made my case very well, I could understand where LeBron from the outside looking in, not following the Nuggets like I do on a day-to-day basis, would maybe not see the vision like I did. And I don't know, there are some aspects of the Nuggets that aren't necessarily first rate like you would get in some other places. So LeBron wanting to come to Denver is the more difficult thing. Denver should want LeBron James, and the idea that they would hang on to Jamal Murray or Michael Porter over LeBron James is just complete lunacy. If this is about basketball, Denver, tell me a team that's better for LeBron James to go to than the Denver Nuggets. Oklahoma City would be pretty good. But hey, Denver may not be able to beat LA, but it sure as hell beats Oklahoma City. So come on. The Nuggets finally have other things over some other places, right? Like Oklahoma City, Denver's a better spot than OKC. We can at least agree on that. Maybe Denver's not LA if you're a millionaire. But gosh, Denver's better than Oklahoma City. But I'll say the same thing now that I said in 2018. I don't think LeBron, even though he talks about it being about basketball, I don't think it's totally about basketball. And I still don't think it is. It's lifestyle, it's his family, it's his off the court interests, it's all of this other stuff. And it's why he is merely putting pressure on the Los Angeles Lakers, as he usually does, and will not go through with it. Right? LeBron James he'll walk right up to that line, do everything right up to that line, and then he just doesn't have the guts to jump. I can make the basketball case all day long, and then it cannot be argued. But even though Rich Paul's statement talks about basketball, it's never just about basketball with LeBron James. And that's why Denver might not be at the top of his list if he were to actually ask out of the Lakers. 719-247-1313. NBA free agency has begun. Nuggets have about $5.7 million to spend. Just don't spend it all in one place. Or actually, you have to, because $5.7 million does not get you more than one player. And the quality of that one player is even quite low. But that's what the Nuggets have to work with as free agency begins. First bit of news is that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to sign a 5-year max extension with the Memphis Grizzlies. And we'll see what else comes in over the rest of the afternoon. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, recapping an exciting week of golf and a great event at the Broadmoor with Jay Ritchie next. Padraig Harrington, the winner of the 45th U.S. Senior Open, closed it out yesterday. A fantastic finish and a fantastic week at the Broadmoor. Joining me now to put a bow on it is someone who has been on these airwaves quite a bit over the last few days, and for good reason. He is the host of Tee to Green Radio, Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. right here on Extra Sports 1300. He is Jay Ritchie. Jay, did you enjoy yourself yesterday?
I sure did. I enjoyed myself all week long, for that matter. I'm going through a little bit of open withdrawal today.
Don't know what to do with yourself today, huh?
Yeah, I should have went to the golf course.
There you go. If you could give me one reason above all others why Padraig Harrington won the U.S. Senior Open, what would it be?
That's a great question. I would think championship mentality. When push came to shove down the stretch, Miguel put himself into great position. And not that he's not a champion, but when he had a chance to really step on the gas on the tee box at 18, he jerked it left. Mm-hmm. Stuart Sink was right there, toe to toe with Padraig for 3 days. I mean, they put on a great mano-a-mano matchup. But yet, in those last 4 or 5 holes, when he had a chance to either hang with Padraig or overtake him, he couldn't do it either. Padraig, when he had the chance, when he had those shots, he made them. And I think that was the difference.
Yeah, Stuart Sink had the putt on 17 was 6 feet maybe, and he had another one earlier. Just couldn't get it to go. But the Miguel Angel Jimenez, you alluded to his tee shot on 18. In that situation, put yourself in Miguel's spot. Are you going for the green?
Oh gosh, probably not. But I mean, he was in the rough. He had, was it about 180, something like that?
I thought it was one. I mean, 40 yards may or may not make a difference. I think it's like 140 from that spot.
Yeah. He's got to at least make par to have a chance. He needs birdie because he was one back at that point, wasn't he?
Yes, and then he ultimately gave a stroke back on 18.
Yeah, he ended up with a bogey.
Yeah.
If he goes for it and out of that rough, I mean, he could hit a flyer. He could just duff it. I mean, there's a bunch of negative things he could do with that shot. The ball was sitting up a little bit, but not great. And you know what it's like to try to hit out of that stuff, out of that rough, out of U.S. Open rough, out of Broadmoor rough, same thing.
Terrible.
And he's not known for being a real strong, Bryson DeChambeau type who could go down and maybe dig that ball out. He was thinking about it. I know he grabbed. I don't know what club he grabbed, but he was all set up, and it looked like he was going to take a whack at it, and he changed his mind, and he just punched it out and got it close. And at that point, I think he knew that tee shot doomed him.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I mean, I don't know how anybody could think that Harrington, the way that he locked in after those, he bogeyed the first 2 holes of the back 9. He just seemed so locked in after that. I don't know how cognizant Miguel Angel Jimenez was of the score. I mean, he's standing right by the leaderboard, but I don't know how cognizant he is. But I'm watching that and I'm like, if he doesn't, I don't even know if he pars that hole if he wins. Like Harrington, it just seemed like after those first 2 holes on the back 9 that it was just he was undeniable. And then you also had the Jimenez tee shot on 18, and you had the 2 missed putts by Stuart Sink. But it just, And does the way Harrington's playing play into that? Right, too.
Exactly.
You know,
Yes.
you talk about,
Yeah.
playing with the guy, but I just feel like for the last 7 holes of that golf tournament, I'm like, I don't know if Harrington's going to give up any strokes.
Yeah, if Miguel birdies 18 and they're tied, when Harrington's standing on the tee box, he knows he's got a birdie 18.
Mm-hmm.
Does he birdie it? Does he come up with the shot there that wins it for him? That's a great consideration. Does he play the hole differently?
Yeah, Jay Ritchie, host of Tee to Green Radio, joining me here on Drive Time Sports. So because it was Sink and Harrington together for the entire tournament, because Jimenez made his run on Sunday, wasn't really being thought of too much before that. There was just all the focus seemed to be on Harrington and Sink, and for good reason. You watched a lot of golf. If I said outside of Jimenez's run on Sunday and the two guys at the top of the leaderboard the whole way through, what was a story? Who was a golfer that you would like to, that you wanted to, I guess, discuss, or you came away with some thoughts on?
Positive thoughts or negative thoughts?
Either way.
Yeah. The story really was the top 3, 4, 5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Miguel inserted himself into the story yesterday with a great round 64, and that could have easily been a 63, which nobody shoots 63 at any U.S. Open, but he darn near pulled it off. Thomas Bjorn made a little move and then kind of faded away. Mark Hemsby, I thought, hung in there pretty well, but I think he kind of succumbed to the battle between the two big guys, Harrington and Sink. I don't know whether he actually thought this, but maybe they just wore him down. Maybe he just got to the point where, gosh, I can't hang with these guys.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point, because we were just talking about the effect of, knowing what the leaderboard looks like, or playing with one of the leaders. Like Hensby, he has 1 win on the Tour Champions. He himself admitted that he hasn't always been a very consistent golfer. If there's anybody in that group that I would think would be a little susceptible to, I guess, intimidation, it's probably not the best word, but I'll use it. It would be him, just because he's never in that position, whereas Jimenez, Sink, and Harrington always seem to be.
Yeah, you need to be in the battle to handle moments like that, and not all the time. And sometimes somebody comes out of nowhere, or in their first crack at a big tournament, comes through and prevails. But generally, yeah, you have to be in the heat of battle to know how you're going to react in the heat of battle, especially in golf. Golf is so much, between the ears.
100%. The event itself, what would you say about it? How well did the Broadmoor come across to the folks at the USGA and Tour Champions?
I've been to every big major at the Broadmoor, the 2 women's opens, 95, 2011, the 3 now, the senior U.S. Opens, and I thought this was the best one. For just top to bottom, the Broadmoor didn't miss a beat. If there was a winner besides Padraig Harrington over the weekend, it had to be the Broadmoor. It had to be Colorado Springs.
And I've been asked a lot about this over the last 24 hours, and because of what you just said, you're better equipped to answer it than I am. Crowd-wise, how would you compare it to some of those other events?
Well, I didn't get out that much into the crowd this time around. I've had a bad back, and even when we were out there, was it Friday? You and I went out and walked a couple of holes.
Yeah,
my back was acting up on me with that, so I didn't really get deep into the into the golf course and couldn't see what the crowd was like away from the main area there by the clubhouse, where you had the finish at 18, you had the tee at 4, and you had the number 1 tee box. That's kind of where I hung out. I did look on television, of course. I watched a lot of that. You could see the bleachers, you could see the crowds. To be honest, I was a little disappointed. Maybe I was just catching it at a bad time, or the coverage was not there when the crowd was there. But I thought there'd be a little better crowd.
Yeah, I wonder about that too. And, I guess the only time where you can really see it is at the end on Sunday, right? Because at every other juncture, you have some of the crowd that's elsewhere. And that's kind of what I was wondering too. And it's such a massive golf course too. So there could be people hiding all over the place, leading up to the finish on Sunday. So I'm just curious. Obviously, a lot of people are curious as well, asking me the crowds and how it was and everything. And I thought you'd be better equipped as you are to answer that question, given that you've seen a few of these.
The crowd around 18 at the finish was tremendous.
Oh,
that was great.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. The bleachers were full. They stuck around to hear Harrington speak afterwards and stuff. They were, they showed out well, certainly at the end. It made for some great pictures there at the end with NBC's broadcast and everything like that. So what you said today? You don't know what to do with yourself. What are we going to do now? So is it 2031? Is that what we're waiting until, or do we got something else? The golf calendar. Do we got anything else to keep our eye on in the next couple of years?
Well, right now, it's 2031, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see something a la what we had last year with the BMW at Cherry Hills, or some other event like that slipping in somewhere to fill the void between now and 2031. At least I hope so. Yeah, I hope we do.
I hope so too, because it was just selfishly, it was a great week, and everything I heard from the folks who were just visiting were like, this place is amazing. So hopefully they go out, spread the word, evangelize, and get more major golf tournaments here to Colorado Springs. Did you happen to tabulate the scores in our foursomes that we drafted?
I did not. I just know that we each had a guy in the top 3. I don't think have we ever done that before?
No, but we did not have
did not have the winner.
Did not have the winner. So you had Stuart Sink. I think I told you that you didn't have Stuart Sink. You did have Stuart Sink. I had Miguel Angel Jimenez. Let's see. Who else do we have here? I should have done this before we got on air. I'm just kind of looking through.
I had Alker, who was top 10. Stephen Alker.
Wai Yang, who was +3. Where did Alker finish up?
In 7th. He was -3.
Oh, there he is. -3. And then DeMarco finished. DeMarco had a rough go of it. Yeah, missed the cut there. And I think I had Goosen and Cabrera who missed the cut. I think it's safe to say with Sink, because I had Jimenez and L, so that puts me at 9 under. Then I had 2 golfers who missed the cut. You had Sink at 10 under, Alker at 3 under. Wai Yang takes away your score from Alker, and then DeMarco missed the cut. So I think it's fair to say that you ended up winning, but we once again did not. What did I say? At least one of our guys is going to get cut, and we won't have the winner. And we did not.
How do we both miss Harrington?
I have no idea. He's only won this tournament before. He's only won this tournament before and becomes, is he the 5th player to win both the U.S. Senior Open and the U.S. Open multiple times? I'm thinking Nicholas,
Gary Player.
Yeah, did Hale Irwin? I think Hale Irwin.
Hale Irwin and Bernard Longer.
Yep. Good.
And now Padraig Harrington. Yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah, it was a great week. It was great hanging out with you, Jay, and look forward to the next time you and I get a chat. Thanks for dropping by.
My back's getting better, so we got to get out and play some golf.
You let me know. Like, you act like I'm the one that's well connected. You gotta let me know, and I'll be there at the drop of a hat, my friend.
All right, sounds good.
All right, see you, Jay. That's Jay Ritchie, host of Tee to Green Radio, as heard here Sundays 8 a.m. on Extra Sports 1300. Why aren't we getting a lot of NBA news? Where's all my NBA news? Jaren Jackson Jr. signs an extension. Blah, I don't care. Dorian Finney-Smith is going to the Rockets. So the Lakers, after LeBron put out the statement, the Lakers have only lost players. So that can't be sitting right with him. And that's about it. What's going on here? See if any other news breaks in the next few minutes. Coming up next, we did have a significant trade in the NFL. Give you my thoughts on that next here on Extra Sports 1300. Pro rodeo champions from the U.S. and Canadian circuits, plus national champions from Mexico, are coming to Colorado Springs July 8th through the 12th for the NFR Open at the Pikes Peak or Bust Rodeo, with payouts at over $1 million. The competition will be fierce. Don't miss out. Tickets available now at pikespeakorbust.org. Still not a ton going on in the NBA. There is a significant trade or a significant acquisition being made by an Avs Western Conference rival on the eve of NHL free agency. This will not come as a surprise to you, but Mitch Marner officially will be a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. They cleared out some space earlier today, trading Nicholas Hague to Nashville. And now they will have Mitch Marner, which will make them better. I mean, say what you will about what that core four in Toronto accomplished. Mitch Marner is a supremely talented player. Are they better than Colorado with Mitch Marner? They've lost a lot of their, I think where I would go is the Avs still have many members of a championship winning core. I think what Vegas has done, you can't say they're less talented. I think they are much more talented of a hockey team. You think with Jack Eichel, with now Mitch Marner. I think if it's a tie, roster to roster, I'll give the nod to the championship DNA that the Avalanche have. Because the Vegas Golden Knights have given away so many of the players that were on that Misfits team in their everlasting pursuit to get whatever shiny object pops up. And look, I'm not disparaging the Vegas Golden Knights because they're absolutely a Stanley Cup contender. Okay. And we're sitting here talking about the Denver Nuggets doing absolutely nothing. At least Vegas is constantly doing things. They're constantly trying to improve, and they deserve credit for that, even though sometimes they color outside the lines, as we have recently found out. They might get in a little trouble for tampering here. But at least they keep trying. But now you have Eichel, you have Mitch Marner, who have won absolutely nothing. Those are the centerpieces of your team. Those are the faces of your franchise. If there's not a great discrepancy in talent between Vegas and Colorado, and I don't believe that there is, I'll give that tie to Colorado. But there's no doubt Vegas is on the short list, and they're more talented today than they were yesterday by bringing in Mitch Marner. Then you had a trade in the National Football League. And I don't know if you read it this way. I read it like this. Steelers acquire Jalen Ramsey. And I went, good for them. I think Jalen Ramsey has something left. I think that's a good move for Pittsburgh. And then I saw the rest of the trade. There are two players on the Steelers defense that makes them who they are in terms of their identity, but in terms of how good they are. It is TJ Watt and it's Minkah Fitzpatrick. So you're giving up Minkah Fitzpatrick to get Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers in a nutshell. I don't know that they're better. Are they better? Did they get better? Are they going to win more games because of this move? I mean, it just seems like so many of when you're in this purgatory like the Steelers are, I get it. It's hard to move the needle forward. But it's like Mika Fitzpatrick was your second best player. And you're getting Jalen Ramsey, who I like, but I also know that he's near probably the end of his career. Even if you say that Jalen Ramsey, okay, upgrade. But you lose Mika Fitzpatrick, and in the wash, you get Jonnu Smith because you traded George Pickens. It's like the Steelers are just like they're moving. I don't want to say they're moving deck chairs on the Titanic because Mike Tomlin will never let that ship sink. The Steelers will never let that happen. But it's like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like that's what it feels like they're doing. You're taking away a key member of your team to improve your team in a different way. And in the aggregate, I don't know that you're better for it. Does this make the Steelers better? You could say it's 2 for 1. I just think they're different. It's like George Pickens at this too. Like you're giving up on talent in George Pickens, but you don't want the headache, which I can understand. But are you a better team for it? I don't know. He's a supremely talented player. But you traded George Pickens, so you had a need for another weapon in the passing game. So then you give up one of your best players to accomplish that. I just think that the Steelers are moving pieces around. I don't know that they're, other than Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is the key to all of this, just like Bo Nix is for the Broncos. And I put both of these teams, they're at the same level, right? I foresee them battling amongst each other, maybe for the last playoff spot. What Aaron Rodgers is, and perhaps adding Jonnu Smith is a way for them to ensure that they're going to get whatever the best version of Aaron Rodgers looks like at this age. But I just don't know if it's ultimately him, because I don't look at the Steelers after making this trade and giving up Mika Fitzpatrick where I go, oh, the Steelers are better. I think it still rests on the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers, and the Steelers will justify this by saying we get Aaron Rodgers another weapon. The Vegas Golden Knights are a better hockey team today than they were yesterday. I don't know that the Steelers are better than they were yesterday. They're different. They take in a lesser player on their defense, which maybe they can afford to do, and they add. I mean, is Jonnu Smith a better version of Pat Freiermuth? Maybe. So you take away from this, you add to this. Doesn't it come out as isn't it a wash? I kind of think it is. Take your thoughts on the trade. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, we'll hit the 3 stories that are driving the show, and NBA free agency going on as we speak, and the NHL is making more news. And the rich are staying rich. I'll explain that moving forward as well here on Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome into a Monday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, online, or through the Extra Sports 1300 app, which is sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. Also back up on the stream at XTRA Sports 1300 on all your favorite social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. How was your weekend? Did you go to the Senior Open? Be curious about that specifically. And also I have another question that ties in to the three stories that are driving the show that I'd love to get your thoughts on at 719-247-1313. So why don't I get to those stories right now? All right, let's start with the event that was in our own backyard over the last few days. Here's story number one.
It was tension filled. Like, it was just all day. It was tight and close. I was happy that both myself and Stuart got away to a good start. We made some birdies. We got going. It was kind of important not to let the field back into it.
That is the winner of the 45th U.S. Senior Open, Padraig Harrington, who won it wire to wire. But that doesn't mean, to his point, that there wasn't some drama. Stuart Sink was right there with him all weekend long. Miguel Angel Jimenez went absolutely berserker on Sunday, shot a 9-under and left strokes out on the golf course. He was phenomenal yesterday, making it a little bit more interesting. But just Sink and Harrington back and forth all week was fascinating to watch. But it was Harrington who joins an exclusive list that has names like Nicholas and Longer and Irwin to win multiple U.S. Opens on the PGA Tour and multiple U.S. Senior Opens. But to have an event like this with the level of golfers that we had in our own backyard, it was fantastic. Hopefully you got a chance to check it out at least one of the days. But it was great. And now we look forward to 2031 and maybe more of the biggest names in golf will be at the Broadmoor next time around. But top rate, great event, USGA, Broadmoor, tip of the cap to them, and especially to Padraig Harrington and Stuart Sink and Miguel Angel Jimenez for making it an incredibly memorable Sunday at the Broadmoor. I do want to get into the discussion I had with Jay Ritchie earlier in regards to the way that Jimenez handled 18. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but let's move forward with story number two, which is NBA free agency underway as we speak. Just to give you a little bit of breaking news, although this is not the second story, because why would D'Angelo Russell going to the Mavericks be worthy of inclusion in what's driving the show? It's just now breaking, and that's also part of the reason why I am here. So Russell going to the Dallas Mavericks. But no matter what happens today, what has happened, what will happen, the biggest story of NBA free agency is LeBron James, and LeBron saw to that yesterday when at the same time that he opted in to $52.6 million player option with the LA Lakers, his agent Rich Paul released a statement basically saying, I want to be here, but I don't know if you guys are good enough. Now, that's not exactly what he said. What he did say, to be fair, LeBron wants to compete for a championship. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. We have done this with LeBron James every year he's been in LA. The reason why is because LeBron James did not choose the LA Lakers because they were the best organization. Not because they had the intellectual capital to continue to surround him with championship level players. So he has felt the need to nudge this team at every turn. And for good reason, because they were a mess of an organization before he got there. Everything good that has happened to them up until the Luka trade is directly, you can hold LeBron James directly responsible. The Lakers would be a joke if not for LeBron James. But it just underscores the fact that he didn't choose the Lakers for his best chance to win. Credit to him, he terraformed that organization and got him a championship. But now he's a few years removed from him, and he's going, I want to be here, but I don't know if this team's any good. And the answer is they're not. They're not. They're not a championship team. They have Luka. That's great, but there are some holes on the roster that existed before Luka got there. Luka does not cure everything that ails the Los Angeles Lakers. So is there a better place for LeBron James to go and win a title? Yes, and it's here. It's 45 minutes up the road. It's Denver. It was Denver in 2018. It's Denver in 2025. LeBron James going to play with now the best player in the world. In 2018, it was me pleading with LeBron James to take a chance on this rising star that is Nikola Jokic. Now I'm sitting here saying he's the best player in the world. All of these other places that people are trying to get LeBron to, he has to lead that team. With Denver, he could be right alongside with Nikola Jokic. There is not a place in the NBA that LeBron James could go to that would give him a better chance to win a title than Denver. And part of the reason why that is the case is because Denver could literally give up anyone else on their roster not named Nikola Jokic, and they would be a better team once they acquired LeBron James. A trade that works out financially right now would essentially swap LeBron James for Jamal Murray. The Nuggets would be better. Unequivocally. So I don't have to sell you on the Nuggets side of this. The Nuggets would be crazy not to contemplate moving a Jamal Murray or a Michael Porter to get LeBron James. Everything I said about Kevin Durant would apply. LeBron James is kind of a different player than Kevin Durant, but the same thought applies. Put a star next to Nikola Jokic and watch what this team does. That has never happened in Denver. Nikola Jokic has never played with the star. Never. So the Nuggets side is easy. The LeBron side of it is more difficult because I don't think that LeBron James wants to win a title above all else because that wasn't his main motivation when he went to LA in the first place. But here's LeBron James inserting himself into a conversation he has no business being in. If he would have just opted in, it wouldn't be a story. But he has to make himself a story, and he has to continue to put pressure on an organization that will collapse the minute he walks out the front door. Once again, I am pleading with the Denver Nuggets to trade Cam Johnson for LeBron James. Because I am now just seeing on my television set that the Nuggets have made a move. Throw out the rundown. The Denver Nuggets have traded Michael Porter Jr. to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson. That's real. That just happened. That just happened. Cam Johnson, healthier, younger, better defender, not by a ton maybe. But the main thing is that the Denver Nuggets get off of the treadmill of whether Michael Porter Jr. is going to be healthy. This is finally the Denver Nuggets cashing in on the found money. It was found money to get Michael Porter Jr., who many people believed would never play NBA basketball, or he'd be a Greg Oden and just perpetually hurt and never able to get on the court. And thanks to Michael Porter Jr. and all the credit in the world for that, he played a lot and he contributed to a title team. But the fact of the matter is, every single year you wondered about his health. And now you get a younger player in Cam Johnson that brings a lot of the same things to the table that Michael Porter Jr. does. And you take one of the big variables around this basketball team out of the equation. Not to say that Cam Johnson will never get hurt, but it's not going to be the question that remains constantly. The Nuggets will also give up a first-round pick in 2032. So they had to give up more. They had to pay more. But they got a player in Cam Johnson that they can count on being on the floor more than Michael Porter. Or I should say, to be unfettered by a litany of maladies. Because that was the thing with Porter. To his credit, he kept going out there and playing. He's more available than Jamal Murray has been. All the credit in the world for Michael Porter. But the Denver Nuggets are not in the business right now of saying, what if this? No, they got to have guys on the roster that they can depend on. And Cam Johnson with Nikola Jokic, because anybody with Nikola Jokic is going to bring out the best in them. Cam Johnson can absolutely be what Michael Porter was and more. So now let me shift. Trade Jamal Murray for LeBron James. The LeBron James thing still stands, but Michael Porter off the table. Cam Johnson coming to the Denver Nuggets. And I'll say this in addition. This newfangled front office that the Denver Nuggets have, with Ben Tenzer and John Wallace, with Josh Kroenke being at the top of it, I had my questions. I still have questions. But what did I say when they were put into place? Do something. Show us that you can lead this team forward. They didn't do it on draft night. That was an opportunity that I thought they missed. But here at the first day of free agency, they carry out one of the most important pieces of business that this Nuggets organization can get done. And that is finally saying thanks for everything to Michael Porter Jr. and bringing in someone to that spot that will be on the floor and that you can expect will not be hampered by a number of injuries. They just kept going out there with Michael Porter, and they're not in the business of that. They got to remove some of these variables. So Ben Tenzer, John Wallace deserve credit. Now, you could argue that this was the easier piece of business to do, that I still look at Jamal Murray and I still think that he is a bigger issue than Michael Porter. But it's not to say that Michael Porter's health wasn't. So this isn't job done, but this is certainly a place where you give credit to a front office that was getting a lot of questions on whether they could actually do the job, for myself included. And they go out and make a significant move. Now, is this, I know what the big question is, does this make the Nuggets the favorite in the West? I'll take a break. Take your thoughts on the move. Again, Michael Porter going to Brooklyn, Cam Johnson coming to Denver. Denver pays Brooklyn a first-round pick in 2031 in order to make it happen. But Porter for Cam Johnson, take your thoughts. That is now what we are discussing the rest of the way here on Extra Sports 1300. This newfangled Nuggets front office. How about them? Ben Tenzer and John Wallace. They were a punchline a week ago, and today on the first day of NBA free agency, they have addressed one of the biggest needs of this team, which is finding somebody who gives you what Michael Porter gives you as a basketball player, but that you can rely on a little bit more from a health perspective, and they get Cam Johnson from the Brooklyn Nets. I almost called them New Jersey. The Brooklyn Nets, and that's not all, folks. Shams Charania reporting moments ago. Brucey B is back in Denver. This from Shams Charania. Free agent Bruce Brown Jr. has agreed to a one-year deal with the Denver Nuggets. So essentially right now, out goes Russell Westbrook and Michael Porter. In comes Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown. You take that trade off, 719-247-1313. Let's go to the phone line. Dave is calling in, wanting to talk about Cam Johnson. Now, Dave, you got to talk about Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown.
Yes, I do, Ryan, and thanks for taking my call again. I am so in favor of this exchange. I think Cam brings a little bit better defense. I don't think anybody has talked about that. And he brings a healthier body, and I think you say that. And with the addition of Brucey, I think we're taking a little bit of something from Indiana and Oklahoma in terms of the depth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to it. Now, a lot of people probably won't agree with that, but that's what I'm thinking. Your thoughts?
Well, I'll say this, and Dave, thanks for the call. I can't put this Nuggets team above Oklahoma City right now. Not to throw cold water, not to be Debbie Downer. These are great moves by the Denver Nuggets front office, right? Again, just look at it. You're trading essentially Michael Porter and Russell Westbrook for Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown. And oh, by the way, and we may find out this is part of the reason why the Denver Nuggets are bringing back Bruce Brown. Cam Johnson makes about $10 million less a year than Michael Porter Jr. So the Denver Nuggets have brought in Cam Johnson, for all intents and purposes. And I did mention Cam Johnson's defense. But for all intents and purposes, the Nuggets are getting back the same player that Michael Porter is. Right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to. But he's healthier, he's cheaper, he's younger, and that's all those boxes that are checked to make this a win for the Denver Nuggets. Then you look at Bruce Brown replacing Russell Westbrook. Now, I'll caution people, Bruce Brown is a few years removed from the Nuggets winning a title. And it flat out did not work for Bruce Brown on either of his destinations that he went after he left the Denver Nuggets. But he's back with Denver. Can they get the production from Bruce Brown that they got or from Russell Westbrook? I think that's a reasonable thing to ask. But what Bruce Brown also brings you is not the bald spots from pulling out your hair. And also, as we found out as the playoffs were going on, there's going to be no problem with Bruce Brown fitting in with this Nuggets team. So the way I look at these trades is, are the Nuggets getting much better statistically, right? Are they adding any different skill sets to the group? Are they getting major upgrades for these two players, Porter and Russell Westbrook? And I would say the answer is no. But there are some niceties that go along with both of these players that makes these wins. What's Jamal Murray doing this year? What's Jamal Murray doing this year? What's he's going to be like? That's the biggest question surrounding the Denver Nuggets. These are good moves. These are moves that the Nuggets needed to do, and they got it done. But to me, the Nuggets are only going to get back to the title if they get back 2023 Jamal Murray. And that guy looks further gone every night that I watch him. So if you're telling me that the Nuggets add Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown and they trade 2025 Jamal Murray for 2023 Jamal Murray, now we're talking about a team that I think can take down Oklahoma City and win, not just because look at the East. You take down the Oklahoma City Thunder, you're winning a title. With all due respect, which is very little to everyone in the East, the winner of the West will win the NBA title this upcoming year. But they have to get Jamal Murray. They have to get him back. He has to commit. He has to come back for the start of the season in shape. He has to be on the floor. He has to play at an all-star level. He has to. Or else this other stuff won't work. It's not going to work unless Jamal Murray is Jamal Murray. Or I shouldn't even put it that way because I don't know what the real Jamal Murray is. $2023 is an outlier in many regards. But if you're telling me that Jamal Murray is going to put in the work, and it's not a skill level thing, it's not that Jamal Murray isn't talented enough, it's is he committed enough? He was challenged this time last year by both Michael Malone and Calvin Booth to take it more seriously, to be committed, and he didn't do it. Just flat out didn't do it, didn't listen. Didn't need a second year for it to finally click with him. If they get that Jamal Murray, then sign me up for the Nuggets having a real chance to get back to the NBA Finals. We wanted the Nuggets to be extended this courtesy. I will give the Oklahoma City Thunder this courtesy, and I don't think I'm completely out on a limb or doing this. Yeah, Oklahoma City's still the team to beat. They're absolutely the team to beat. And I think they, in some ways, are going to be better for going through this experience of winning an NBA title. Houston is going to be a real factor here. But the Nuggets, by eliminating some of the variables that existed around this team in terms of Michael Porter's health, in terms of Russell Westbrook's what do I want to say? Temperament. You know what the issues with Russell Westbrook were last year. The ceiling floor thing, the wild swings from one night to the next. One night, Russell Westbrook looks like prime Russell Westbrook, and the next night, he looks like he can't hit a shot. With Bruce Brown, you're going to be more consistent. He's not going to have the high points that Russell Westbrook did, but he's not going to have the low points. So you're removing some of these variables. The biggest one is still Jamal Murray. But that's unless we're talking about moving Jamal Murray for LeBron James, which I already have, unless it's something like that, you're just going to have to live with it. Or at least the Nuggets are going to live with it. Ben Tenzer and John Wallace can't do anything to make Jamal Murray stay in shape and to play at an all-star level. It's all on him. If he does that, the Denver Nuggets are right in the mix to represent the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. If he's not that guy, if he's that guy last year, nope, not going to happen for the Nuggets. What I am curious to see moving forward, I think maybe the most fascinating piece of the moves made today by the Denver Nuggets, which again, trading Michael Porter to Brooklyn to get back Cam Johnson and signing Bruce Brown. What additional flexibility do the Nuggets have now? And do they use it? Is it essentially you're swapping out Porter for Cam Johnson and Russell Westbrook for Bruce Brown, and that's that? It very well could be. But I'd like to figure out this evening and into tomorrow what additional flexibility the Denver Nuggets might have, and would they use it? Because we still know that they want to commit to developing these younger players. And they can absolutely still do that with the moves that have been made today. Julian Strother can still find his way on the floor. Deron Holmes is still going to find his way on the floor. And those are the two we're talking about. We're not talking about Jalen Pickett. We're talking about Deron Holmes and Julian Strother, and I don't see anything with Cam Johnson or Bruce Brown that says those two guys can't be on the floor. My guess is this is it. The Nuggets off-season free agency period started and ended in the span of about 10 minutes. Continue to take your thoughts, though. 719-247-1313. Michael Porter and a 2031 first-round pick in exchange for Cam Johnson. And then we don't know the financials yet, but essentially they are losing Russell Westbrook and bringing back Bruce Brown. It's a good day for the Denver Nuggets. But I can't get too carried away because I got to know what number 27 is going to look like this season. More Drive Time Sports after this. The Denver Nuggets have made 2 moves, trading Michael Porter and a future first-round pick to Brooklyn to bring in Cam Johnson. The important, I was going to say important and I was going to say pertinent. Here are the important aspects to know about Cam Johnson. He is essentially Michael Porter Jr. But his injury history is not as lengthy as Michael Porter's. His contract is not as expensive as Michael Porter's. I'm looking at Cam Johnson's numbers, and I'm looking at him on a Brooklyn team. So, yeah, his numbers are higher than Michael Porter's are in some regards, but playing with Nikola Jokic, it can kind of work a couple of different ways. You could say, wow, Cam Johnson's going to have even more opportunities to score. Sure. But is he going to rebound as well? No. Is he going to assist on as many shots? No. Essentially, they are bringing in a healthier, cheaper Michael Porter Jr. And then they bring in a veteran player in Bruce Brown. They bring him back. Obviously, that's going to make a lot of Nuggets fans feel all warm and fuzzy inside. But the important thing is he can provide the same level of production that Russell Westbrook did. We don't know if he's essentially taking Russell Westbrook's money that he turned down, this $5.7 million exception, or this is the Nuggets, by clearing space, by trading for Cam Johnson, have paid Bruce Brown a little bit more money. We'll find that out. But that's a little detail. They're replacing Russell Westbrook with a player that will not have the highest of highs like Russell Westbrook did, but not the lowest of lows either. And we know is a locker room fit. There won't need to be any reporting by Ramona Shelburne about Aaron Gordon going to Bruce Brown and having a conversation with him about, his, whatever it is, body language, mentality. The Nuggets have improved their basketball team, not necessarily because they have brought in all-out better players than what they had at those 2 spots, but because these players are essentially the same as the ones they lost, but there are other pieces to it, like salary, like fit, like health, that makes these deals wins for the Denver Nuggets. The question I have remaining still is Jamal Murray. And for the record, I would still trade him right this second for LeBron James. For anybody wondering, I still would. But ultimately, what the Nuggets have done is kept themselves in that conversation with Oklahoma City, with now Houston adding Kevin Durant, as the 3 best teams in the West, the 3 most likely teams to come out of the Western Conference. And to me, as I look at each one of them, I could make a case for any one of them until I see Jamal Murray play at an all-star level and be consistent at an all-star level and be available. That is the thing that puts them over the top. Could put them over the top. Certainly, it would put them above Houston. And also, I mean, it takes a big man to admit when he was wrong, and I am that big man. Ben Tenzer, John Wallace, I salute you. I had my questions. I would like to know who called Brooklyn. I do need that piece of information, and I hope somebody asks at Cam Johnson's introductory press conference and the welcome back Brucey B party, who made the call? That's going to still exist. But whoever made the call, maybe it was Josh Kroenke, but these three guys, the co-managers and Josh Kroenke above them, they got done two significant pieces of business. And I had my doubts that they would be able to do anything. As recently as Friday, I didn't think that they were going to get anything done. But they did. Maybe relationships do matter. That's what John Wallace was preaching at his introductory press conference, the relationships they have throughout the league. But you look at it from the Brooklyn perspective, I mean, money's not an issue for you. Michael Porter is a more proven commodity than maybe Cam Johnson is. You get a first-round pick. That's probably the biggest thing that they're looking at. But the Nuggets are in a better spot today than they were 24 hours ago. Not infinitely more talented than they were. But for all these other reasons that aren't necessarily talent, they're in a better place. And now we'll see what the rest of this looks like. Because they are saving a good chunk of change by bringing Cam Johnson in for Michael Porter's spot. I'm looking at my television. Okay, they are just recapping the Cam Johnson. They were showing highlights of the Denver Nuggets, and they flashed to breaking news. I was like, okay, what? I forget that TV says something is breaking for about a week. Just Cam Johnson for Michael Porter and Bruce Brown signing back with the Denver Nuggets. Let's get to some of your texts. I got to laugh because the thread is up from the last time this texter came in, and he said, I hope the Nuggets can get either Bruce Brown or Gary Trent and maybe trade Michael Porter for a bag of potatoes. They get Bruce Brown, and they get more in return for Michael Porter than a bag of potatoes. The question is, how tall is Cam Johnson? And he's got to be a better defensive player than Michael Porter. I will tell you the difference is negligible. Okay, if anybody is going to bang the drum of Cam Johnson upgrades the Nuggets defense exponentially, they're lying to you. Cam Johnson is, I'm going to hang out in the corner, I'm going to work off of screens, and I'm going to shoot the three. That's what he is. He's Michael Porter Jr. For the record, he's 6'8", and Michael Porter's 6'10". But no, the Denver Nuggets did not get way better defensively. But what we have with the Denver Nuggets right now is kind of what the Broncos have been doing under Sean Payton. They're getting better in some margins here. You can't look at Cam Johnson and say he's a vast upgrade over Michael Porter, and you can't say that about Bruce Brown in regards to Russell Westbrook. But these little margins, like Cam Johnson's going to be healthier, and Bruce Brown is going to fit a little bit better in the locker room, or Bruce Brown has a higher floor, even if he has a lower ceiling. Like the range of outcomes, if you will, are shrinking for the Denver Nuggets. They move off of two of their more high variance players, and they're trying to win on these margins. So I think they're asking the question on ESPN whether the Nuggets are closer to contending, and I think they are. And I omitted the Minnesota Timberwolves. How dare I? That was just an honest mistake. I'm trying to talk about Cam Johnson. Minnesota still exists. So Houston, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver are all in that mix. What Minnesota brings to the table can still cause the Denver Nuggets problems. So I got to really think about how I would rack them and stack them in this. I think for this year, I would certainly put the Rockets fourth. Because this is a big move that they made, and rarely do we see a move of this significance immediately pay off with the title. So I think you have to start with the Rockets fourth. Nuggets 3, Minnesota 2, Oklahoma City 1. I reserve the right to change my opinion tonight, but right now that's what I'm going to go with. Because Minnesota, by the way, they brought back Naz Reid. They still have Anthony Edwards. We'll see what happens with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And we'll see what else Tim Connolly has up his sleeve. But as of this moment at 5:50 p.m. on a Monday, I think I'd still have to give the edge to Oklahoma City and Minnesota, and then implore once again Jamal Murray to be an all-star this year, to have his best regular season that he's ever had. Have that, and I don't think that 2023 playoff Jamal Murray is far away. But these are good, smart moves for the Denver Nuggets trying to win within the margins. And the margins can mean everything, because the margin between these teams, it's so minute. Like, I can sit here and say that the Nuggets can't beat Minnesota, but does that mean that Minnesota is head and shoulders above the Denver Nuggets? No. But it's just when you add up those margins, it's just enough for Minnesota to always get the better of the Denver Nuggets, or at least get the better of them since the Nuggets won a title. Nuggets getting Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown back. Another text, same texter from the 719. Jokic made Bruce Brown one heck of a basketball player. He did, but he's a couple. That's why I say, like, if I just told you that Cam Johnson is Michael Porter without the injury concerns, and Bruce Brown is Russell Westbrook without the high variance, you take that. You take that. But you would still be left, as I'm left, wondering truly about Jamal Murray. And whether we will see the 2023 version of him ever again. If he does that, the Nuggets can jump over OKC and they can jump over Minnesota. If he's not, they can't. I do think it's that simple. Wrapping up our conversation on the idea, if LeBron were to ask out, would the Nuggets be a fit here? From the 719, two questions. Do you think Denver fans would accept James? And do you think James would play for a team where he's number 2? And if he wins a title, he would be riding someone's coattails? Your first question is 1,000% yes. Any Nuggets fan that tells you that they don't want LeBron James, that they wouldn't take LeBron James, is lying. They would take him. And he would be welcomed with open arms. It would be viewed as he is leaving the dark side and coming to the light side. finally come to his senses, LeBron James would be celebrated in Denver. I have no that's not an issue. You do bring up a fascinating second point, though, because if LeBron is saying he wants a chance to win, what's the string attached to that? To your point, is it that he still has to be the man, so it's Cleveland? Because that's not ultimately the best place for him to be in order to have a chance to win a title. I think coming to the Denver Nuggets, it would not be looked at as riding the coattails of Nikola Jokic. I think it would be looked at as LeBron James being the missing piece that Jokic needs to get back to the NBA Finals. I think that it would be viewed in Denver as Nikola Jokic needs LeBron James as much as LeBron James needs, or maybe not as much, but there is a mutually beneficial thing. They both need each other to some degree. But it's a great point that you bring up. What's the string attached to this? You want to go to Milwaukee? You want to go to Denver? You want to go to Houston? You want to go to Minnesota? You want to go to OKC? I mean, he's become kind of the second fiddle guy to Luka anyway there. So I can't imagine at this stage of his career it would be that big of a deal. He's not joining a super team. And I think like Denver, most other NBA cities, you could say that Anthony Edwards needs LeBron James to some degree, that Shea doesn't need him to win a title, but I don't think it would be a big issue. I don't think either one of those would be an issue. And Eli will close us out saying, please take LeBron, sincerely, true Laker fans. Yeah, that's the other piece of this. I can't imagine Laker fans love the fact, even if they see the deficiency of their front office, of their organization, it's still not great to hear every year one of your most important players going, yeah, I don't know, I want to be here. I mean, that constant, I got to imagine there are some Lakers fans that are like, we got our title out of him. If he wants to go elsewhere, go ahead. But the big story today, Nuggets trade Michael Porter and a first-round pick for Cam Johnson, and they bring back Bruce Brown. We'll have more on those moves tomorrow. We'll see what else NBA free agency brings. And by the way, NHL free agency starts tomorrow, and the Colorado Avalanche just made a cap-clearing move on Friday. This week's going to be fun. Hope you join me tomorrow at 3 here on Extra Sports 1300.